Welcome to the 2021 GEDP Economic Development Summit. We are very glad to be here in person this year. It's our theme this year is transformation, and as you can tell by all of the exciting things that are happening in Galveston, it's an incredible time of transformation. So we appreciate Jeff and his crew for organizing all this so we can bring everybody together to have accolades for that. We had a great morning panel, and we got to learn about all things with a great set of entrepreneurs and a lot of the local leaders. We have a lot of thank yous, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get through these quick. First, I want to go to the GEDP staff. We have Jeff, who always leaves his name off this list, but he single-handedly, with his crew, got this event organized. I'd like to give him a round of applause. And to special recognize his staff, Becky Umbehagen helped with the event, Kathy Palmer, who is on staff at the GEDP, and Joan Pattison, who also helped. And I also want to thank Liz Rogers with 5 and 2 Marketing for her assistance with many things today. Madison Bird also helped her, and I don't know if I saw the, perfect. I'm sorry. And we also want to thank Michelle Hay with the city, who helped guide us and continues to offer a great partnership with the city. And special thanks to a lot of the wonderful little swag and tchotchkes that you have on your table. Were organized by Debbie Kirby with Kirby Advertising. She gets help from her husband Dave, and they really had a significant part in producing this entire event, so we thank them for that. And probably the most exciting thing you're going to take home with you today is the transforming coffee cup, so that you can always remember this day. When you put hot coffee in there, you'll get a surprise. We're going to go ahead and move on to our lunch program, if Colonel Fossum is ready. Oh, born ready, I like it. First of all, I want to thank Colonel Fossum for hosting us in this wonderful facility. It's our second time here, and it's just a great, great place to meet, and we had fits everybody very well. So I'd like to introduce Colonel Fossum. He's been an incredible leader here at Texas A&M, and we'd love to hear an update on all the exciting things going on here at A&M Galveston. Colonel Fossum.
I was going to try to run across the stage, but it looked like an obstacle course. Howdy. Hey, I want to welcome everybody here to the Galveston campus of Texas A&M University. What an amazing group this is. What an amazing facility. Isn't this great? Hey. We're excited. How many of you, this is actually your first time to come to the Galveston campus over here? Let's see those hands. Wow, okay. Well, we've got a lot more to show you, and there's actually been a lot of things happening just in the last few years, and more to come. I do want to just say thanks to all of you that are coming here for the benefit of Galveston and the business and growing Galveston in so many different ways, through education, through industry, through the different businesses, through the port, which of course the whole city is built around and stuff, and how huge it is to put this kind of effort into it down here. While you're here, I hope you'll have the chance to meet some of our employees and students. I've got 2 of my student leaders over here. Where are they? There we go. In the uniform back here is Cole Hertenberger. He's our Corps of Cadet Commander. There he goes. And Hope McFarland. She's our student body president. So it's an honor for me to lead this campus, and we're talking transformation. Well, let's talk transformation, folks. 60 years ago, this was all a mud flat. The bridge had just been built, and there was nothing pretty much over here, very little on Pelican Island. So, we've done a lot to transform the chunk of land that George P. Mitchell donated to the university to help us get the university started. We've been through our highs, we've been through lows, we've all ridden the hurricanes together. But we're really in the last 13 years or so, a lot of investment from the university and state here, and we're in some of those new buildings right now, and really looking at what's to come, the future. We're doing great. We're on really solid ground here with meeting our mission to drive the blue economy for the state of Texas and the nation. We drive the transportation, the business, the sciences, the engineering, et cetera. So we're a special purpose. Everything is related to the blue economy, our oceans, et cetera. And in this year, we're excited to be back after being like all of us, disrupted so much for COVID for so long, but 100% back in the classrooms this fall. The fall of 21 looks just like the fall of 19, with a little more fear behind it and a little more dancing with masks and other things. But we're incredibly excited to be back. It's been a really good year for us, too. In the U.S. Congress, we got funded a new training ship, which will be owned by the federal government, and we're so excited about that. This is a really big deal, folks. The federal government recalled our last training ship in 2005. They said, we got another mission for that ship. We'll get you another one soon. And we got kind of impatient. And so we finally worked out, some agreements where those of you that are around last summer might have seen the training ship Kennedy down here from Massachusetts. We took it out under our control to accomplish our training mission with our cadets, our crew, our faculty and staff on the ship. It was the first time that a large training ship had sailed from our dock since 2005. It was a really big deal. And there's more to come. The new ships are being built right now. I'm going up next week for the keel laying ceremony for ship number 1. It's called the National Security Multi-Mission Vessel. So this will not only be a training ship, but it's custom built to be able to very efficiently respond as a disaster response vessel too. And it's got a roll-on, roll-off capability. It can handle normally about 800 people. In a humanitarian crisis, it can handle 1,000 people. It's got beds, it's got the hospital, it's got the kitchen capability, the water purification, sewers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I've met with the National Director of FEMA, who's very excited about getting this capability here in the Gulf of Mexico. We can be anywhere from Key West to Brownsville in 2 days, and having that capability ready to go. Hurricane Harvey was a wake-up call. After Hurricane Harvey, 3 ships were activated. Our little training ship, the General Rudder, we moved 35 FEMA workers onto her the next day. It took 2 weeks from the big ships that were activated from New York and Massachusetts to get to the Gulf of Mexico, and by that time we'd had several more hurricanes romping through the neighborhood. And that's too long. Texas can't wait that long when the lights are out and you're dealing with the aftermath of a major storm. So we're excited to be part of that mission. The federal government will operate the ship when it's called up for that. But, and then now that we've got the big ship coming, we will get the Kennedy here full-time in 2023. Massachusetts somehow got ahead of us in line for the new ships, and I got over the whole angst about the hand-me-down ship. It's okay. She's beautiful, and she's big, and we're going to love to put a lot of maroon paint on her. Any Aggies out there? Whoop! There you go. And to support those ships, though, we needed to do some significant upgrades to our dock and our campus infrastructure, power, heating, cooling. And we got that through the Texas legislature through the regular session this year. And then in the third special session, we actually got funding to build a new engineering building here, too. There's huge demand in our state for engineers, and this will allow us to grow our ocean engineering, our marine engineering technology, and bring in new programs down here in environmental engineering, which is a critical component of the entire coastal spine project, as well as computer science. So there's transformation. We're still transforming, folks. There's a lot more great stuff to come. And if you don't have a chance to see the entire campus while you're here today, please call on over, and we'd love to show you around, show you our simulators, show you our laboratories, and in the years ahead, and I wanted to mention this too, I hope you saw our display out in the lobby there about our sea turtle hospital. Whoop is right. Where's my turtle, folks? There we go. Yep. This was a dream from Dr. Chris Marshall and his team that came to me a few years ago, about 2.5, 3 years ago, and said, hey, we got this building we're not using. NOAA's getting out of the turtle rescue business. We really need to create a hospital. So we scratched together some nickels from reserves, and they managed to make those nickels stretch with a lot of volunteer work. And they finished up all of the mods they needed for all of the water purification, the isolation, the tanks and everything. And they were getting close to done when they got a call that said there's an airplane with turtles coming from Cape Cod that need you now. And so they worked around the clock, and we're here to receive those Kemp's Ridley sea turtles, the most endangered sea turtles in the world, native to South Texas or northern Mexico. They were coming in from Cape Cod. They were lost, and they were really in bad shape. But we nursed them all back to health, and I think we released all those. Is that right, Teresa? Yeah, we got all those back out there, and then the winter storm hit in February, and we were stacking turtles on top of each other, quite literally in plastic, Rubbermaid bins and stuff like that, with well over 100 turtles rescued here, and eventually nursed back to health. And it's really exciting to be part of that. Right now at the hospital, and because of the rules and regulations associated with wild animals, we can't really bring you in to show you all as much as I'd love to, because it's so cool. And I'd love for you to bring your kids and grandkids too, but we can't. So what we're working on now is a bigger hospital capability with a real surgery room and stuff, instead of taking them up to the Houston Zoo, and a visitor center. And we're very excited about that, and we know that that's going to be a place for a lot of people to come. I know my grandkids will be coming here every time they're visiting town. I hope yours will too. So come on back. We'd love to show you around. Thanks, and gig 'em.
Thank you, Mike. Great to hear what's going on over here. I was so excited. You don't get to introduce colonels very often in your life, so I've left off a couple of thank yous today. So we need to thank Minuteman Press and Frost Bank for sponsoring the luncheon. And then also we have many thanks for the folks at UTMB for a lot of the help they gave us today with audiovisual and helping us put the event on. Obviously the folks at Texas A&M and at GISD. We really appreciate all the help everyone has given us. We're going to go ahead and move on to our final speaker of the day and hear all kinds of updates on pandemic and all things about what's going on at UTMB. So we're very blessed with great leaders here in Galveston. One at the top is Dr. Ben Raimer. The UT system showed their wisdom in naming him as permanent president at UTMB a few months ago. First of all, we want to thank you for all that you do and for your partnership with the GEDP and also all you do across the region. Dr. Ben Raimer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Bassett family, for the contribution that you all make on a daily basis to Galveston. Thank you, Jeff Sorstrom, and the remarkable team of people that you have assembled at GEDP to better our community. To our elected officials, thank you for making this city progressive and assuring that it embraces the future in such a incredibly positive way. What you do stimulates our business and the environment. You work well with business, and I just can't thank you enough for what you do to support both Texas A&M here and our Galveston College and University of Texas Medical Branch. Colonel, thank you for hosting this today. This is indeed a remarkable campus and one that we have grown to show great affinity for in our ability to work together as we both seek to address both the social justice problems on this island as well as the educational needs. So we got a great team here, guys, and don't let anybody tell you any different. If you're not familiar with UTMB or the academic medicine piece of that world, I want to take a moment to show you some of the things about it today. And in doing that, I'm going to push everything here, Becky, until I find the one that works. Why don't you go ahead and advance for me? I think this is not working. In our mission statement at UTMB, if you're not familiar with us, we are really focused on innovative education and the training of the future healthcare workforce. That's something that has gone with us since 1891 when we were formed. Cutting edge research, it was cutting edge back in 1891 and it's certainly cutting edge now. The things that we're into and the cast of characters you're going to meet today, and believe me, the researchers and clinicians we have brought today to talk with you about the future are some of the most well-equipped in the entire nation and world. This is a team of people right here that you can count on. They are inventing the future and creating the future in medicine every single day. Also, we still do some basic stuff. Healthcare, for instance. We operate a number of hospitals across the area, and we admit on a daily basis a large number of patients that we provide direct healthcare for. We're back like we were in the old days where our total number of beds approaches over 1,000. And that's a lot of patients to have in the hospital, guys, and a lot of workforce to employ. A lot of nurses and doctors and technicians to support that kind of an investment. We've been doing this for a long time, 130 years if you want to know the truth here. 130 years ago, we opened UTMB with the help back then of the John Seeley family. The John Seeley family had already built a hospital, and adjacent to that hospital was built the Ashbel Smith building, Old Red as we call it, which is currently being restored and will hold in the future not only some of our administrative buildings, but also a medical museum that will be open to the public. That combination actually of hospital and medical school was the first such combination in the United States, predating Johns Hopkins University by 1 year. We're real proud of that because we've been around a long time. We were here because Galveston was an active port, a place where commerce was occurring on a daily basis, and immigration was abundant. The second largest number of immigrants to America came through this port that we sit in. The largest number, of course, was in New York. But we were the second, and we had a quarantine hospital here, which gave rise to our infectious disease programs. Look around 130 years later, Dr. Kobinger, the new head of our Galveston National Lab, on the floor where his office is, there is one window I like to look out because you can see Old Red, and across the water you can also see where the quarantine hospital was. You can see our entire 130-year history in one window. It's a very gratifying view there to know that what was started back so long ago continues to this very day. We've been doing this a long time, yes, but we have looking at the same time into the future. And that's what we have to do as a community. That's what we do and practice at UTMB. Becky Korinik, who is the Executive Vice President and heads our strategic planning, has one eye on the present and the other eye on the future constantly. Our executive team meets every single week with that same attitude. One eye on the present and what we need to do to be the very best in every area that we're in, and one eye on the future of what we need to be. There's an old, in Texas we don't follow a lot of hockey, but Wayne Gretzky's quote has found its way into the business world anyway, so some of you will know that he always said you keep your eye on the puck and you skate to where you think it's going to be. We in Galveston have to move to where the future is. And the people you see around this table here are people who are uncovering the future for us in medicine. They're all about the identification of procedures and medicines and other technologies that are going to change the future. As we look at a day at UTMB, it's hard for me to digest things in such a comprehensive fashion, but you should know that on any given day, we have 3,452 students on that campus. 3,452. Combine that with what A&M has, and you're looking at a college town, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at an enterprise within itself that impacts the real estate market, impacts restaurants, impacts everything that we do. Yes, David Collins, it also impacts the Postal Service even. So a lot of stuff goes on in Galveston. To help illustrate this, also, just to remind you, and on any given day at Galveston, $308,000 are spent on research. $308,000 a day. That's not a week, not a month, not a year, that's a day. There are 110 patients discharged from the hospital. That's a large number, not including babies. The total number of discharges across our health system with the hospitals that we have in Clear Lake, over in Angleton, Danbury, and over in League City, that total number now is more than 40,000 discharges in one single day. One single year, I'm sorry. That's an increase over the last 1 year of 8%. That's pretty good growth. If you want your business to thrive, what are you looking for? Is the growth of sales, the growth of heads and beds if you're a hotelier, or the growth in the number of students you're taking in your college? And an 8% growth is great. Our student growth over the last 8 years at UTMB is 42%. That's a remarkable amount of increase. And again, direct impact to the economy here in town. It's hard to fathom all that, but on an average day, we see 4,800 patients in our clinic. Can you imagine that people drive up and park their car, walk in, and get seen? I'm amazed that we don't have more complaints than we do. I mean, we're seeing 4,800 people, and we get very few complaints, even about parking. We get some complaints, believe me, but you know, I get to see them all. So yes, if you write, the president does read those. The total encounters at UTMB and those places this year have been 1.7 million. You track that number. 1.7 million people have entered the hallways of healthcare and gone away. On a given day, we do 418 encounters through telemedicine alone. Again, do the numbers on that for a year, 418 a day. And those telemedicine encounters go all over the world, from Star City, Russia, where we provide care to the astronauts, down to the South Pole, where we manage all the people working down there, all over Texas to countless mental health and medical care stations, all throughout the Texas prison system, to schools throughout this area where we do, Diane, our telemedicine and health interventions for children who would not otherwise be able to see a psychiatrist or get mental health services. We can make all that available through those connections at UTMB. We have 13,681 employees. On any given day, we are receiving tens of thousands of applications for people who want to come to work for us. And we offer services to almost 100,000 prisoners throughout the state of Texas. That budget alone is over $1.3 billion, a significant part of our annual revenue. I want to spend a bit of time also highlighting other of our mission areas. I'm going to start with education because our images of that are people in chairs sitting around listening and getting a lecture. Medicine has changed dramatically now. That does occur in some areas, but if you have not toured our health education center, you really should. There are still places for didactic lectures, like lecture halls like this, only they're markedly different. They are interspersed with artificial intelligence, simulation, The top floors of that 6-story building include simulation centers from everything from delivering a baby to taking care of a patient in the ICU to learning how to intubate or put a breathing tube into a person's windpipe, ability to do surgical procedures. As Dr. Perez will tell you, he runs our simulation laboratories. Practice makes perfect, and it really does. The more you repeat a procedure, the better you get at it. And that allows our people not to be repeating those procedures on you, a human being, but to do that on a mannequin or a robotic device that simulates that. And believe me, the technology there is life-changing. First time I walked into the nursery area, I walked by a bassinet with a baby in it, and they were tricking me out here. The baby turned blue as I walked by, and immediately I ran over to grab the baby. It's that realistic. Shame on me, yes, I was fooled, but at least the skills that I had been repeatedly trained to respond to the signs there overwhelmed my own personal systems and caught me up in the moment. That's what these guys do. They do the best in medical education, so that practice does make perfect. And not like in the old days where we herded most of volunteers from the community in and we said, wouldn't you like to get a rectal today? No, we don't do that anymore. You know, we have a little subtler way of doing it. So all those things add up to some extraordinary ways on graduation day. This year saw us graduate 1,267 health professionals. Think about that. People who spent a period of time in Galveston and they got their degree and they go out from there to practice their art of healing. Among those were almost 600 nurses, about 300 healthcare professionals in general, 240 brand new physicians, 85 brand new physician assistants, and 61 biomedical scientists. And those biomedical scientists, because of the stature of the people sitting at this table and their colleagues, those individuals go all over the United States to some of the most prestigious laboratories there are. And the NIH in Washington, D.C., in Galveston, Maryland, the Department of Defense, all over the place, to the laboratories throughout the United States and around the world. We enrolled this year, as I mentioned, 3,452 students in the fall of this year, which is yet another increase. And those people are in addition to the 775 resident positions we have, are postdoctoral students and fellows. That means there are residents, postdoctoral folks, and research fellows among us. We have a lot of new things on the horizon, and we want to certainly show you a bit of that shortly. We have a new school of public health and population health that we have launched this year. It will be inspected this summer, and we expect full accreditation in 2023. It takes a little while to start up a new professional school like that, but we already have the faculty, at least most of them, and we already have students in line working on degrees. It is being led by our interim dean, Kristen Peak. Dr. Peak is extraordinarily qualified for this undertaking. I met with her the hour just before coming over here, and I left really excited about what is unfolding and happening in that entire area. It's going to be an area of research that propels UTMB to the front in the area of both infectious diseases and other disorders, particularly global health areas. Very exciting for Dr. Peak to be in charge of that and to lead our expertise there. Did you know within that department is one of only 2 aeronautic and space residencies in the entire United States? Did you know that everybody who flies in space, even in the commercial flights, gets an exam from a UTMB doctor and is pre-certified before they go up? I bet most of you didn't know that. It happens right there on the east end of this island. they like their confidentiality, so we don't publicize that, so there are no photos around for the elite who do that, but something that UTMB has done for years. We have an incredible partnership with NASA and with NASA in general. I also am pleased today to announce to you that we are launching a new emergency medicine department. That department will be led by Dr. Diedrich Yela. Dr. Yela comes to us from South Carolina. This is the 4th Department of Emergency Medicine that he has launched or started up from scratch. We've already started recruiting, and Colonel Folsom, I'm really glad to tell you our first hire is an Aggie. Actually, not just any Aggie, but an Aggie who graduated from this school and went to UTMB because he didn't want to leave the island. He liked the fishing here so well. He went on and to medical school and entered the U.S. Army, served at SeaTac in Seattle, got his emergency medicine certification, served with distinction in both the Saudi Arabian area in immediate treatment of people from Iraq, and also served in Syria. He comes back to us with his wife, who's a PA in rheumatology, and is the first to join that faculty. So I thought you would like just to know that we've got another Aggie Longhorn partnership there. He is yet to realize his uniqueness. I will also tell you that we are moving along in our research area in remarkable ways, discovering new preventatives and treatments and cures for illness and injury. Our fiscal year 21 research funding received $162 million. That's only about $22 million more than the previous year. Not bad. Remarkable growth for NIH funding, along, not to mention the funding that we receive from very generous philanthropic organizations such as the Cecilia and Smith Foundation. For our COVID work, we submitted 146 grant applications, of which over $50.9 million was actually funded. So we had a lot of money at UTMB to spend in COVID research, and I think you know the history there. You'll get a little more of it today as we discuss that. The Galveston National Laboratory was among the first to obtain samples of the virus, and groundbreaking work in development and evaluation of vaccines and new treatments done. Dr. Shi, would you stand up, please? Dr. Pei-Young Shi's laboratory handled all of that. And he, with Dr. Weaver and his colleagues, Dr. Manicherry and others, not only did they receive the COVID vaccine, the COVID virus, they transformed it through some reverse engineering techniques that we don't have time to discuss, nor would you want me to discuss them. Dr. Shi will do that. Transform that, speaking of transformation, transform that into an effective virus in less than 11 months. We have a vaccine, thanks to Dr. Shi and his colleagues. Where did it happen? It happened right here on Galveston Island. It's hard to believe. We sat in our office and watched people line up to get those first shots. It's hard to believe that that all came from a lab just around the corner on our island. So a remarkable success. And yes, that warrants applause. That would not have happened if there had not been such a strong relationship with the foundations on this island, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the City of Galveston and others, as they welcomed the Galveston National Lab being built and certified, engineered, and put into operation on this island. Other labs that were built at a similar time are yet awaiting operational licensure. Ours is not. Ours was there to answer the call and respond to the need. And Dr. Shi will assure you later that, yeah, they're aware of the Omicron variant and they're taking steps for that also. So I have a team of people here under Dr. Kobinger's supervision in that laboratory that are going to do great things in the future, not just in the past. So far, those grants that have come in have been put to good use. With what we've learned in that brief period of time, we've also asked Dr. Shi to head up a new institute at UTMB in drug discovery. They did an incredible job with this virus and the vaccine, but this isn't their first rodeo. No, they did this with Ebola virus, they did this with Zika and others. So there is opportunity to do great things with this kind of research in the future. Dr. Shi will be heading up our plans there, a 7-year development plan that will just be doing what Jeff and people in GEDP have been talking about for several years. Putting to work in our community the objective of creating companies that do scientific and drug discovery, bringing resources into this community in very new and unique ways. And yes, we will be looking for partners in all those. Spinning off along that will be also a brain health institution led by Dr. Giulio Tagliatella. Many of you know Dr. Tagliatella. I call him the gentle giant. Don't tell him I use that term. But if you've met him, he's a little bit like Mr. Clean. He has a clean-shaven, bald head, and he's about my size, a bit overpowering, but the most gentle and wonderful professor and teacher and mentor to students you have ever met, and knows everything there is to know about the human brain and how it works and how disease impacts it and what to do about that. So we're going to use his skills and those of the team that he has collected. When I single out individuals by name like this, you must understand that I'm talking about the person who heads that. But with them is a whole team of people that are just incredible. They're graduate students. There are other scientists of eminent qualifications. It's a group effort. It's a football team, guys. Sometimes a little more than the normal average of players, but each one has a skill set. They're blocking and tackling science. They're moving the ball ahead for all of us. So hopefully most of your sports fans will get that. Our patient care mission also plays in there. I want to mention that and not get lost in that, or I'll get reprimanded. We have 4 campuses now, and I'm very, very proud of all of them. I make routine visits to all those campuses. I think president should be a walking person that goes out and meets people and knows how things are going. And believe me, I get an earful, but that's useful for me in making decisions. You can't manage an enterprise as big as UTMB by not ever getting out of your office. The Jeannie Seeley Hospital, as you can see, is filled with patient beds. John Seeley is being completely renovated. Thank you, Seeley Smith Foundation once again. 60% of that is done, and we've got 40% to go. And that 40% will go very fast, Mr. LeBlanc assures me. There will be cladding, and yes, the brick was purchased at the time of the original brick, so it will match for those of you who are worried about minor matters. The brick will definitely match. League City has 97 beds right now, and we just happen to have built that with the idea of adding 9 floors to it when the time comes. So there is a future plan there, and those existing floors are already full, as is the emergency room. So that's good news for us. Angleton Danbury was an incredible situation, a little bitty country hospital that was going to go out of business. They asked us to come in and help them. We did. They leased the building for a modest sum to us. We have done the improvements. We have added a multitude of doctors. It's a training site now for doctors who will go into rural practice. Thank goodness for young people who have gone into medicine and want to embrace that kind of practice, because they have come in droves to us to work there. We have a large number of physicians who've joined us in the last 3 years who grew up in that town and wanted to come home to mama and to daddy and grandparents. It's a good feeling. They love the community and they want to make it better. We didn't know how that was working out until the 5th anniversary, and the support group for the hospital I used to call them the Pink Ladies at Old St. Mary's. Y'all would remember that. I know Adrian Bassett would remember the Pink Ladies who were always operating the gift shop and walking around the hospital and helping the sisters out. Well, the Pink Ladies over there called us to come over. They had a surprise for us, and boy, did they. They gave us a check for $50,000 for medical student scholarships. So we knew that our relationship with them was pretty strong after that, and remains strong. We have just added a new office building, the Bleakley Building, which also serves as urgent care at the corner of 288 and 35, and there'll be more things on the way there. Our OB numbers went from 30 a month to 75 a month in 2 months. So it's a growing little hospital. We're excited about that. And then Clear Lake Hospital is just extraordinary. 177 inpatient beds. Around that whole area are a sea of clinics with pediatricians, internists, cardiologists, and others. A very vibrant medical office building and incredible opportunity. Dr. Peter Kahn, who you will meet in a moment, practices there a good deal of his time, and also some here. He holds the Robert L. Moody Robert L. Moody Jr. Distinguished Chair in neurosurgery. He is the initial holder, and we're very proud of the work that Dr. She does. The closest I can come to describing to lay people, forgive me, Peter, is that he catheterizes the brain like other people catheterize the heart. The only difference is, you don't have to take off the top of your head and do all those things. He goes in the back door and is able to do miraculous surgery. After strokes, with tumors, with arteriovenous malformations, and all sorts of things in adults as well as children. Having Dr. Kahn here is just one of the biggest blessings I could tell you, and his colleagues, just extraordinary. Along with him, the person you're going to meet today also sitting at the same table is Dr. Alexander Perez. Dr. Perez received a lot of his training on the East Coast, but also found his way south down to Atlanta and to the halls of Duke and other places for training. He does microsurgery on anything in the body that he can get to, and he can get to just about anything in a microscopic fashion. So the next time you ladies don't want an ugly scar, just give him a call and he'll take your gallbladder out or whatever needs to come out, stomach, kidney, you name it. He can get it out through a little bitty hole, okay? And you won't feel bad afterwards, trust me. I don't exaggerate. These guys are incredible, and I can't say enough good about them. Anyway, we've got all of those hospitals. Why do we have all that? Why are we doing that? Several people ask me, why don't you just leave well enough alone? Why don't you just focus? You've got a gorgeous hospital on the island. There's nothing better. We need to fill that hospital up, and from these hospitals come cases that are what we call quaternary care cases. They're cases you don't do in an ordinary community hospital. They're cases that require the sophisticated equipment that the Sealy and Smith Foundation has provided us at UTMB, one-of-a-kind opportunities to do surgery, to do procedures and all that you just can't do anywhere. That's why, and it's an incredible economic resource. It's a backup to the entire petrochemical industry over on the mainland, and we used to think of the water out there as no man's land. Well, there are men out there, and they work on oil rigs, and we have the safety procedures for them. We have a level 1 trauma center there that Sealy and Smith is helping us redo completely. It will be state of the art. And that means if you get in a traffic accident, you'll have the right place to go. It means if someone falls off a rig out there, they have a place to go. So it's a win-win for us all. I want to mention COVID. You'll have some questions about that, I am sure, about our growth over the last 130 years. If you look at COVID, we have done yeoman's job in testing, 614 tests. When Houston, I brag a lot, but there's a lot to brag on, and if the president can't brag on the wonderful work that his colleagues are doing at the university, shame on him. Houston Medical Center, we're doing 40 tests a day for COVID. Dr. Michael Laposada and Dr. James Luke at the Galveston National Lab figured a way to do 3,000 a day. That's right, 40 versus 3,000. Who would you go with? Well, a lot of big business in Houston all went with us. And when it was time to pass the plate in the state health department went with us to do their testing also. And we're proud of that record of the number of tests we were able to churn out until other people could get up to speed using some of the techniques that we developed. Our vaccine program also put 340,000 shots in arms. That's a lot. But if you were so lucky as to go up to the Walter Hall Park and get a shot, you'll know that you were driving in. It looked like an old-fashioned drive-in movie theater. You drove in, and my daughter is used to my hyperbole, so she says, "Oh, Dad, you're lying. It won't work that fast." And she called me in line and says, "Dad, I can't believe this. I didn't even hardly stop my car. I slowed down and I got a shot and I drove off." And those walking shots were pretty cool. And we had nurses and volunteers doing that. It was awesome. And it was awesome seeing people get something that would protect their lives. You don't want to see the side of COVID that most of us have seen. You do not want to walk into the ICU and see people gasping for air. It's not a good thing. Becky, we're going to hasten through these where we can have some discussion. So let's go to the next slide. And what is the economic impact at UTMB? Well, let's just start with $3.3 billion and work from there. $2 billion in direct impact out in the community, but personal income, 46,000 jobs created in the community, 1 billion in business volume and 1 billion in personal economic, 22,000 jobs in general. And that region includes Brazoria, Chambers, Fort Bend, Galveston, Hardin, Harris, Jasper, Jefferson, Liberty, Matagorda, Montgomery, Orange, and Waller counties. You say, UTMB is not in those counties. Oh, yes, we are. We have regional perinatal clinics out there in every one of them. We operate prison units in every one of them. We have one of the largest payroll impacts in those counties of any organization in the state. Technology transfer is what this meeting is all about, so I want you to just pay heed to these. We'll discuss them later in the smaller groups. Our total licensing revenue over the last 3 years was $43.9 million in technology. Average per year, almost $15 million. Total invention disclosures, 142. Total patent applications were 113. Patents issued were 56, and startup companies established were 7. UTMB startups are addressing such things as peptide drugs for serious respiratory disease, diagnostics for colorectal cancer and mosquito-borne illnesses, novel therapeutics for asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, new treatments for diabetes, obesity, muscular dystrophy, autoimmune disorders, non-invasive technologies for monitoring various conditions and procedures, and we are also developing non-opioid pain medication. Think of the impact of that. We're also investing in facilities to foster research, discovery, and collaboration. And that means as we move onto the mainland, yes, we will be investing in research facilities there as we are here. Most of you are aware of what we're doing in the Customs House building already with space there for startup companies. Among those investments is also planned a biosafety level 2 laboratory incubator research and office space in the Customs House. Co-located buildings with GEP will also provide an opportunity for mentorship to startups and also help us in teaching people how to write more effective grant requests. Estimated completion, by the way, of the Custom House initiatives is in December of this coming year. It's been a long road in there, so that's one of the things we have to move to the top of our list to get completed. There is a lot to learn about UTMB and how we are associated, but I want you to hear from experts. I've talked way too long, which I usually do. But you know, this is just a fantastic place, guys, and it's right here in Galveston. You know? I hope you will think of it as it's ours. collectively, as a city, this is ours. And enjoy that ownership. Enjoy your UTMB. I want to introduce Dr. Gary Kobinger. If you guys will come up and take a seat. Dr. Kobinger comes to us by way of Canada. We looked literally all over the world to find the best person we could to come in and replace Jim LeDuc. That's a tall order. Most of you know Jim and Marianne really well and how wonderful they have been in this community. So we took that as a serious challenge to bring somebody in equal to that task with an international reputation and with the knowledge and skills to operate that facility. Also, Dr. Pei-Young. Dr. Shi is a U.S. educated scientist, receiving lots of his training on the East Coast. He has been both in academia and in the biotech and pharmaceutical world with a distinguished reputation in starting up companies and also as an inventor of drugs and procedures and other amenities that go along with top-notch science. Dr. Peter Kahn is, Peter, I seem to remember that you had some roots in Canada. Yeah, well, we've been recruiting a lot of Canadian people. Here we go again. Peter came to us after a distinguished academic beginning at McGill University and trained at Utah. And in spite of his, I'm going to embarrass you, Peter, but you're like a son to me, so I can do that, right? In spite of his young looks and all, he is an experienced neurosurgeon, and take my word for it, if you ever need a neurosurgeon, you would want him at the head of the table taking care of you. Peter came from Utah to Baylor, distinguished himself there, and we were fortunate enough to recruit him to Galveston. And along with him, he has brought 2, possibly 3 new neurosurgeons, right? 3? 3. So we went from basically a low number to a high number. So we don't have that as a problem anymore. We can spread them all over to take care of you. And then Alex Perez, who Alex has been with us for several years now. He is one of the most sought after educators among our students. People want to spend time with Alex because he is so good at what he does in teaching surgery. We're going to get them a chance to sit down and start some questions here. I know everybody is eager to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to start, Gary, if I might, with you, since you're the newest faculty, you're the baby of the group. You're the newbie, so we're going to ask you, first of all, since you've joined the laboratory and all, what's your initial impression of the lab and the infectious disease team as you scope out your work? What do you think you walked into?
A dream.
A dream.
A dream. This works.
One touch and it should come on.
A dream. It's a dream facility, dream team, top scientists. And importantly, I would say it's a paradise community, Galveston. And this is very important for the type of work we're doing, to feel that we are very well connected. So it's an amazing place, I will say, and this is why I was so excited to come. And on the way forward for me, it will be to try to actually do my best for the early career, mid-career, late career investigators to realize their own dreams. And I cannot think of a better place for this. As you've said, Jim LeDuc's shoes are extremely large and big, and they feel like this too. But yeah, I'll do my best, and it's good to have him also not too far to continue to pass on all the exciting stuff that has been ongoing at GNL, UTMB.
You know, you've had a look at laboratories like the GNL, capable level 3 and level 4 research all over the world. How do you think this laboratory compares to others?
Well, I think it's the flagship in terms of productivity, and the reason is it's sitting in an academic environment, so it's supporting academic research, and this is very unique in the biosafety level 4 containment lab especially. And to have all the containment level in one location with this academic angle is I think a very important now capacity that is changing the way we conduct scientific research in high biocontainment labs.
Okay. Do you see any really specific challenges ahead of you in the next few months?
Yeah, to me, it's a bit every day is where is the next virus coming from or next pathogen coming from. So I think we now maybe we are in a place where we realize the importance of anticipating, detection, rapid response to emerging pathogen. And quite frankly, I think this is the future for us. Is we have seen a vaccine being made available to the human population in less than a year. This is unheard of in the past, where the average time is 15 to 20 years. That said, a lot of people now will say in the top level community of vaccine, it should be 3 months. Well, I'll say this, it should be 3 weeks. So I think this is where we should be going, and not only for vaccine, for drug discovery, and with Dr. Shi, I think it's again a dream team. You'll see the next few years, I think it's going to be extremely exciting.
Thank you. So let me ask you a personal question here. When you walked in and told your wife that you were about to consider looking at a job in Texas, how did she react?
Finally. So my wife is from Alabama, so you have to understand that she's been in Canada for 14, 15 years, and I didn't think she would last 3 years because we first moved to Winnipeg, the coldest place, and sometimes it's as cold as Mars. No, but she was very happy to come back south, be closer to her family, and so yeah. So she has been very patient, but this was a reaction. And by the way, when she came down the first time, the first thing she said on the way back is, because I asked her, what do you think? She didn't say anything for 3 days, almost, on that subject. It was, the community is extremely close to where I was raised in Alabama. People are extremely connected, very gracious, very welcoming, and this is really the main aspect. I think also that was my second biggest surprise, positive surprise. Every community is welcoming, but this is a bit extraordinary level. So thank you.
Thank you, Galvestonians. Thank you. So, Dr. Shi, I won't pry as much in your personal life, I promise, but you've been a part of this infectious disease team for a while now, and with your appointment as the executive in chief of the new institute that we really haven't formally announced yet. We've announced that you're doing that, but we have a bunch of announcements coming up later this year and early next, and you'll be hearing more about the Drug Discovery Institute that Dr. Shi will manage. I think it's safe for me to say that that is a gracious gift, again, of the Seeley and Smith Foundation. When we called them and said we have the COVID virus, but we need a bunch of equipment and we need a bunch of reagents. Those are the things that help us analyze the virus. And Doug Rogers and his colleagues said, how much do you need? I told them, I assumed the clunk I heard was Mike Doherty passing out. But, in less than 24 hours, the check was not just in the mail, it was authorized. And if you listen to Pfizer will tell you that is the reason that vaccine came out first, is because we didn't wait for an NIH grant, we didn't wait for a loan from someone. Seeley Smith rose to the occasion and said, that's the right thing that we should do. So, my thanks to them. So, Dr. Shi, you're on to another thing. You've just finished an incredible race and won it. Now you're on to drug discovery. What are you going to do in that big arena?
Well, for me, I think we all have to be flexible to embrace the opportunities. And then what is the most important thing at this moment? So that's really has always been my inspiration. And as a virologist by training, you always, I waited for 30 years. Not just saying this pandemic's good, but it's really the time the 20, 30 years of training come into play, even though, me and many other virologists at UTMB not used to work on this kind of virus, but virus is a virus. So we all collectively, very rapidly, adapt to the new virus for this coronavirus. And then Dr. Vineet Manashuri and other real trained coronavirus virologists really took the lead to work with us, to guide us. I always say I'm learning from Vineet every day. But we have complementary expertise. And I think this is the way to win big, by complementing different disciplines and to work on the most impactful projects and directions, and then that will have a bigger reward. And then also, I have been to many places. I originally from China and then trained in the US, and then we went back to Singapore, and there are many, many places I've been to. And then really, like Dr. Kobinger just said, being able to work at UTMB at Galveston is really a dream for infectious disease researcher, because of there are so many different things that are unique, like the facilities is world-class, colleagues are world-class, and then the community are world-class in terms of support. And then also the culture, being able to work together, is also world-class. And then what I'm bringing into is, because I used to work for big farmers, big pharmaceutical companies. I've been leading like Novartis global effort for drug discovery for tropical diseases like dengue, malaria, and tuberculosis, those very neglected diseases, but they are so impactful. I have those experience, and then also I used to work for the public health laboratory for the State Department. So I realized how important when a new disease comes, how you respond efficiently, and what kind of tools or are the bottleneck steps that if we can overcome that, we have a much better impact. So, and then the other third is the basic research. I'm always trying to connect those very fundamental research and then cross-talk to the applied research, so that you can really, on that fence, to be able to freely to work effectively on both sides of the fence. So it's really amazing, and I'm really looking forward continuing working with the colleagues and other experts, and also, in addition, not only with UTMB, but also reach out bigger with the big pharmaceuticals to, team up so that we can provide each complementary expertise, as we already discussed, in terms of infectious disease, brain science, and addictions, and a lot of indications here. We are really the top leaders. We have so many top leaders on those domain of the disease. And then when we do all those research, there are different layers of questions you want to answer. Some is pursuing the fundamental knowledge, right? So how these work, how cancer develops, how these bug, the SARS-CoV-2 infects us, causing disease. And those are the fundamentals. But in the end, these knowledge need to be translated into impactful interventions such as vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics, so that we can benefit from it. So I think the Drug Institute is really pitching towards that directions. That will not only, as I said, cross-talk to our basic expertise, and then more importantly, we can generate our intellectual properties and therapeutics, vaccine, diagnostic product, and then can really regenerate our research resources and then make it bigger. So this is really I'm looking forward to, and it's so exciting to be here again on the Galveston Island.
Dr. Shi, your enthusiasm always amazes me. I understand that on your way in working with the COVID virus, you had already doing significant work on the Zika virus, and along the way there, you discovered that Zika has somewhat of a toxic impact on glioblastoma, one of the most common brain tumors. So can you tell us a little bit what you're doing in the laboratory related to the Zika virus and possible treatment for glioblastoma?
Yes, thanks, Dr. Raimer. So this is, again, as I just started to say, we have to embrace opportunities. Anything we do, we think about really trying to think if there is anything we can benefit from it, particularly for researchers. So when I walked onto the UTMB campus in late 2015, the big thing is Zika. So, and then if you look at the outcome of the Zika infection, the most devastating outcome of a patient infected by Zika is so-called microcephaly, which is when a pregnant woman during pregnancy got infected, and there is a high chance that the baby born to the infected pregnant woman will have a small size head. So this is so devastating, I would say the most devastating of this Zika infection. And then very rapidly, scientists found that for whatever unknown reason, that Zika, when infects the pregnant woman, it goes to the feeders, and it specifically infects so-called neuron progenitor cells, the stem cells that develops into the baby's brain. And the virus does that. So that's why it's so devastating. And then when we talk with physicians like Dr. Ken, who treats the glioblastoma patient, and they will tell you that one of the hypotheses, the possibility of the brain tumor, glioblastoma, after the surgery, they almost 100% will recur. And that is because there is a tumor stem cells, the baby cells, which can grow into tumor. And then those baby cells or stem cells cannot be 100% surgically removed because they are hiding around, not in the tumor, they're hiding around the healthy tumor, around the tumor mass. So that's why even surgically, you remove the tumor, and there are still baby tumor cells surrounding that, and then later on, they will come back. And these cancer tumor cells are resistant to the current chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. So that really made us, by talking to the clinicians, started to make a connection that maybe we can use this devastating virus to let it hunt the cancer stem cells. And then we started the experiment by engrafting the tumor into the mouse model, and then we treated with those engrafted tumor-containing mouse with Zika. And surprisingly, remarkably, we found those treated survived much longer. And then this is a very active program, and we're really, with the support, again, from the foundations and the universities and other NIH fundings, we're moving forward to trying to move to the clinics through collaboration with Dr. Ken.
So, Dr. Khan, can you tell me, you got pulled into this real quickly, and we didn't give you a lot of time to get your feet on the ground, and the world was moving fast with both COVID and this research in providing a healthier brain. As the founding chair and the founding person for the Department of Neurosurgery at UTMB, can you tell us what you look forward to be doing in your field in the future? What do you think is the thing that's going to capture most of your attention?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Raimer, for recruiting me. A little bit about the history for the department. You may not know that UTMB Neurosurgery is the first training program in the state of Texas, and a lot of luminaries in the field came from this program. People who trained me when I was in training, so I'm extremely proud that I'm here. And of course, the inspiration like Pei-Young saying that you just want to make things better in the future, kind of treasure what you have and make it better. So I think for me, going back to the different missions, we're talking about the clinical missions, the research mission, and the training mission. So for the clinical mission, I really want to subspecialize neurosurgery. So right now, or 10 years ago, every neurosurgeon does everything. But as medicine gets more complex, things get more subspecialized, we're changing our paradigm. For example, I'm a cerebrovascular neurosurgeon, so I only do, very proud, I only do, disease that deals with blood vessels and nothing else. And as Dr. Raimer mentioned, we've hired now 3 young, talented neurosurgeons, and they're all trained neurospecialists. So they're people who just only focus on epilepsy and movement disorders. There's a brain tumor neurosurgeon coming. There's a spine neurosurgeon coming, focusing on new minimally invasive spine technology. So the goal is really to give our patients in the community the best and the latest care in neurosurgery, and also special neurosurgery. So I think that's probably first and foremost, as a clinician. We're all talking about research. Everyone here is a scientist. I think science is really what inspired me to go into medicine. For example, like the whole COVID story is one of many stories that really resonates with me, right? I mean, we're talking about vaccines that has, from this very island that came out of us, that has, helped literally millions and tens of millions of lives across the world. I think, a few stories I always remember is that when I was a resident, when you have melanoma metastasized to the brain, that's a death sentence. But with the immune checkpoint inhibitors that's been developed by Jim Allison at MD Anderson, now that's a curable disease. So I think, for example, brain cancer, I'm not a cancer surgeon, but brain cancer is a deadly disease, kind of like that melanoma metastasis 15 years ago with no really great cure. But I believe that one day that can be changed, So I think really, like Dr. Shi is saying, we're collaborating. That's where the best kind of research comes, is when you collaborate with people. So in our lab, we're also working on biological therapy. So Pei-Young is working on Zika virus, we're working on adenovirus, and we're looking at different ways to deliver it, not so much by surgery now. As Dr. Raimer mentioned, we're trying to be more innovative, less invasive, delivering through catheters, through blood vessels, and so forth. So I think that's one area. I think brain cancer, not a very common disease, only about 15,000 cases a year in the country, but a very deadly disease. Other things I've worked on as a researcher is stroke. So stroke is something that I deal with on a much more common basis. It's the 5th most common cause of death in the U.S. The number 1 cause of adult disability. So big deal. I think everyone here knows someone who has a stroke. So when I was a student, there's like nothing. I mean, you give aspirin and that's it, right? So throughout that time, TPA came, and now in the last 10 years, as surgeons now, if you come in with a stroke with a big clot in your brain, we can go in with catheters and remove the blood clot. So that has been a big change in paradigm in the last 10 years. So now there's stroke attacks, and we can actively reverse people's lives. It's kind of like that Lazarus effect. I always like to give a story that we treated a patient here at UTMB, literally like a patient. She's a mother of 2, and she literally was driving from 45, had a stroke, and we got her here, and we opened her blood vessels, and she did great. So I think this is the kind of miracle of therapy that come in the last 10 years. So, but what hasn't changed is that. So now we have great therapies for stroke patients, but how about, from the time when you have the stroke till the time you can get therapy, there's hours of delay in between. So in the lab, we're trying to work on medicine that'll protect the brain, like a neuroprotectant that'll protect the brain till we can have the therapy. So I think these are gaps that, that we kind of want to work on, because the same thing, I will hope that when I retire, that people can look back and say, when I started, there was this, and now this is standard of care. So I think whether it be stroke or brain cancer, I think these are kind of opportunities as a neurosurgeon to advance the field and to help. Finally, for neuroscience, I've active laboratory. I enjoy doing research. So you guys all heard about the brain-machine interface, Elon Musk, Neuralink, and all that. I think that's a really growing and big field in science and neuroscience. It's how to modulate the brain. Right now as surgeons, we put implants and we modulate the brain to treat people with movement disorders, with psychiatric disorders, and so forth. And I'm just working on different pathways, kind of less invasive technology, again, to modulate the brain. So that's kind of what I'm working on. So I think these are the different things. I think finally, so we talked about the subspecialization to help the patients, research in different areas, stroke, brain cancer, and movement disorders and things like that. And finally, about the training. I think this is a perfect example. Like I just met Alex in person today. Finally, it's actually really nice to see people in person. And I met Pei-Young, we become good friends, and Gary today. I think as a clinician, we need to have more clinician scientists or surgeon scientists. I mean, I think that's a really important, part of training to bridge us to the scientists, So that's another goal that I have. So I think the first two new hires that I hired, they're all people who aspire to have a laboratory and to be surgeon scientists. So I think these are the things I've been, looking forward to doing. And I thank, UTMB, Dr. Raimer, and everyone else to give me the chance to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Shi, for casting your lot with us and making such a huge contribution. Did I just call you Dr. Shi?
Dr. Raimer is always so complimentary. I'm like blushing,
We do appreciate you. And one thing I hope you will notice in your first three speakers is a word called collaboration. And that's one of the things at UTMB that we hold sacrosanct is when our faculty come in, we want them to take the time to get to know each other and to form those relationships. And that's not something we stage. They do that on their own because that's what has gotten them so far in their career. They're experts at collaboration. Dr. Perez, may I ask you some questions? I know that you came to the island a while, and you and your wife fell in love with the East End, and you are an East Ender. Got a home there that you are remodeling or have remodeled. As we were talking earlier, having a house in the East End means you go around to the hardware store on a daily basis, Roland, and take advantage of all the things there. You brought with you some expertise that UTMB did not have in simulation technology, and also just in time for the opening of our Health Education Center to help with the introduction of some artificial intelligence. And that's sort of a new word in medicine. Could you tell us what role you believe our efforts in artificial intelligence will take in the future?
Absolutely. Dr. Raimer, first I want to thank you so much for your support of and your leadership of this whole entire mission of innovation, and it really has been transformative with regard to healthcare. I think we have to realize that technology has and will continue to transform healthcare, and the purpose of all healthcare is patient-centered, team-based care. It really is about the patient, and we can't lose sight and focus of that. And I think the important thing is that we should interpret data, for example, as the building blocks of how we will deliver that care and how we can focus it to be personalized. I think that we are inundated with overwhelming amounts of data, and how are we going to process that information? Right now we're spending a lot of time potentially inputting that data and organizing that data, when in fact we should be spending that time transmitting that information, analyzing that information, really sharing that with the patient and their families, having them understand exactly what they're going through and really being empathetic with that journey. I think that right now it's an awesome opportunity. It's a wonderful time to be alive. You can imagine that just 100 years ago, our life expectancy was about half of what it is right now. And you can imagine that over that time period, the amount of knowledge that people had to have, or people had at that time, early on in the 1900s, when UTMB was first founded, it took about 400 years to duplicate that amount of knowledge. We call it the knowledge doubling curve. And just within the last couple of years, it went from 400 years to about a month. And then now it's less than a day. So we have so much information, so much data, but the data itself is like a brick. One isolated brick is really meaningless. It's really about how those bricks work together and how the pattern that you see and what you can build with that. And so artificial intelligence is really the combination of two things. It's automation and algorithms. And basically it's steps, sequences, almost like a recipe that when you put it together, you can process large amounts of information and see patterns that a human couldn't see, even if they were given an entire lifetime to process. And so, again, it's all about patient safety. It's about training the next generation of healthcare professionals. It's about really creating that wellness of not just the team being important and taking care of each other. And Dr. Raimer's done an extraordinary job with that, with leadership and innovation. And I think that it's that investment and that vision that allows us to go forward. And so artificial intelligence is really going to be the way, I believe, similar to what minimally invasive surgery was maybe 20 years ago, when before we were doing large incisions to take out small little organs. A lot of collateral damage to just fix one small problem. So now we're able to do this all with 3D printing, robotics, virtual reality. We do that all right now at UTMB. And we're training the next generation of students all the way to high school students. We're even grabbing students that are not inside of Texas. We've reached out to high school students across the U.S., and now the new models of teaching that we've developed here at UTMB have been adopted by other world organizations and is being used, especially now in COVID, because we've been able to send out simulation to learners all across the world. And so that's definitely something, an investment that we can thank Dr. Raimer, and in particular, this is seeded by the telehealth initiatives that UTMB and Dr. Raimer in particular founded 20 years ago. That seed has now blossomed. And so I think that it's a great time to be around and alive and participating in this, and it's an honor to be here, sir.
Can you give us some examples of surgery transformation, and the like that you would see? I'm thinking right now the way we used to open up the belly to do a gallbladder and all of that. And if you are doing the really complicated surgery, such as a Whipple, how long that used to take and how you can approach those kind of really simple and difficult surgeries today with the technology that you apply. And one thing we never thought about in the past that you do today is spending a whole year with surgical residents training on simulation equipment, not in the operating theater, but in a simulation laboratory, so they learn how to get it right. Tell us how important that is.
Well, it's essential. I think, again, it goes back to the patient. And so in the past, it was see one, do one, teach one. In other words, you would see someone do a procedure, then you would, after one time of seeing it, you would do it on a human being, and then you would then teach it to someone else. That was the standard. That was well accepted. Nowadays, it's see many. We have many ways of seeing very intricate level types of procedures through YouTube and different media formats. Doing many. So we have a simulation center, and the standard now is that we do these procedures, the entire procedure, not just a small part of the task, but the entire thing with virtual reality and robotics, getting to the point of precision and personalization. We could actually 3D print your organ, your gallbladder, and practice on that before doing the surgery. That should be the standard across the world. UTMB has a very unique distinction and award. It's received many, but one that's very interesting is the IBM Watson Health Award for top major teaching hospital. Now, probably the world's best recognized AI platform is that Watson computer. And basically this award recognizes the major teaching academic center that has outstanding outcomes, patient care, and processes. And they say that if everyone were to do what we're doing, we would save 100,000 lives and $8 billion. This is truly transformative. So again, the simulation is a crucial part to this. Practicing in an environment that's safe eliminates patient error and situations where we hurt anyone. Our first rule of healthcare is to do no harm. So this really embodies that. It really takes it to heart. And so having, for example, we've created the first simulation fellowship in Texas and the surrounding states. It's nationally accredited. And so there are the ability of now training specifically for this, so that we'll have leaders going out throughout the country and the world being able to set the new standard. And UTMB has been historic in its leadership and innovation from the very beginning. And I think that that's the decision that we actively take every day, that we should either follow or we should lead. And I think we should definitely lead.
I think on any given day, you could, go ahead. A given day, you could look back in UTMB's history to Dr. A.O. Singleton, the first, who was chairman of surgery here over 100 years ago. And today, the Texas Surgical Society bears his name. I think Dr. Singleton would just be ecstatic about the progress that's occurred in the surgical area. And any given day, if you ask Dr. Perez who he works for, he can honestly say he works for UTMB, but he also works for the American Surgical Society. He is a key person in their training and certification programs for the new ways to do surgery. So we are really honored to have him and his colleagues here with us today. I want to ask one last question, and Jeff, we will wrap it up. That last question is, as you look at our community day, and each of you have gotten to know Galveston a little bit from different viewpoints, in the year ahead, what do you think, as people start their New Year's resolutions and all, what do you think our biggest issues are going to be in this next year, 2022, in the area of education and research and healthcare in general? What's it going to be like? What do we need to prepare for? Dr. Shi, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited when you presented this incubator hub and for spin-off companies and align what we are strategically planning. And I think that will be very, very powerful in enable the UTMB's research to spin off and to translate into real products. I'm really looking forward to work with Jeff and others and the community.
All right, thank you. Gary?
I would say working together from a lot of different angles and expertise. I know it's not a new concept by no means, but this time is a bit different. Within our response to COVID, I think we see where we did good and we see where we could have done better. And I think coming forward, whether it's infectious disease, emerging pathogen, whether it's other even social challenges, we realize that working together from different angles can tackle mountains very quickly. And I think this is coming to be more efficient, again, in the face of all these different challenges.
Very good. Alex?
Well, I think it's going to be about community. We've been through a lot of struggles recently, and I think that Galveston has a tremendous history of resilience, and I think this is really one of those factors that will allow us to springboard forward. I think that data, community, focus on really patient value. I think it's a great opportunity to take that all together and with all the relationships that we have here, really build upon that to really improve our community.
Very good, thank you. Peter?
I think it's a very exciting year as we kind of emerge from the pandemic. Certainly looking forward to more collaboration on a steep kind of upward trajectory with, through working with everyone. I think many good things are coming ahead.
Good. GEDP and Jeff, thank you for giving us time from UTMB to talk with you today. If you have questions for any of these gentlemen, I'm sure they'll be around right after this event, and I'd be happy to bend your ear about it. Thank you very much for welcoming UTMB into your community as you do every year.